Hey, what up? It's Quinn Chess, and today we're jumping back into the puzzle series where we're on the road to 2,500 because I just lost 3 games in a row in the Lee Chess pool, and I'm feeling that I don't really feel like playing chess right now. I'm kind of on a skid. I want to put the brakes on that for a little bit, get my puzzle rating back up, and then we'll go from there. I'm still trying to diagnose why exactly my blitz rating is so much lower than my puzzle rating. I mean, it's like there's like a 1,000 point difference. But part of the reason for that is because I take so long to solve the puzzles that the skills aren't transferable to blitz, where I only have maybe 30 seconds at most to make a move. But anyways, let's look at this puzzle. So there's a lot going on. Let's try to break it down. Let's just count how much material each player has. So he's got 3 minor pieces, queen and 2 rooks, and we have 3 minor pieces as well. Um, we are in check by the queen, and we have to uh, get out of this check somehow. We can potentially capture his queen on e7. That looks pretty strong. So we can start by looking at that move potentially. We can observe the fact that our king's safety is quite poor. We have this e file that's open with his queen pointing to it, but his king safety isn't exactly secure either. We could maybe throw a check down the e file at some point later. His king is still stuck in the center. And he's got only one piece developed besides his queen that's really active, which is this bishop on h5. So we don't have to worry about a super like vicious attack or anything like that. Um, Obviously, this pawn, we can almost consider it to be a developed piece because it's really close to promotion, and our opponent is threatening to take here with a discovered attack on our queen on d1, and then following that up with g takes h1 to promote with a capture of our rook. So that is potentially a very devastating move, especially if it's with a check, and especially if it allows him to then skewer our king and the rook on a1, although we can block with the bishop on f1. So those are just some early possibilities, some early motifs. So we have, this d1 to h5 diagonal. We have what's going on with the pawn down the h1 to f3 diagonal. We have the rook that's potentially hanging and under attack there. And then we have the ability to capture the enemy queen with our bishop, and we have checks that could potentially be given down the e file on his king. So let's start calculating some candidate moves. So first of all, we're in check, so we have to get out of check. That's our first priority here. And the most obvious move is to just take on e7 with the bishop, and that would put us +9 in the sequence. So we would have won a bishop, won a queen. After we do that, it's not likely that he's going to take with the bishop or take with the king, because then we can just capture on f3 with the g pawn, and we would be up a queen for a bishop, and that would look really good for us, obviously. So he's going to continue with the most aggressive possible variation, which is f takes g2. After that move, our queen would be under attack, and he's threatening a promotion on h1. So it's a matter of which one do we want to stop. The promotion on h1 looks worse because we are losing a rook in the process of that, and he gets a queen out of it. So if we were to try to stop that, we could play like rook to g1, but then he would just take on d1 with his bishop, and then let's say we take back on d1 with the knight or the king or even the rook. Um, and then he would take our e7 bishop, and both sides will have lost a bishop and won a queen. So material is going to be exactly even after that. So that doesn't look like it works out. We would be just evening up in material. Let's say we do something else. Let's say he takes on g2, and we decide that we're going to take on h5 with the queen. So now, for the moment, we have a queen and a bishop to our name. That's 12 points of material. But he can immediately even that up by taking on h1 with his pawn, and that would even be a check. So that would suddenly swing 14 points in his direction, 13 if you count the loss of a pawn, because plus he's taken 5 points of the rook, and he's also gained 9 points with the queen. So even though we're up 12 points, he goes back down by 13 points in his direction, and then all of a sudden the whole sequence we're like -1. And then we would have to, let's say, move our bishop to block the check, because we don't want to drop this rook as well. And then he can just take on e7 with his bishop, and now he's gotten the bishop back too, another +3 for him. So that would be -4 in the sequence for us, and we're doing even worse. So that looks worse than playing rook g1 and letting him just take the queen with his bishop. So maybe taking on e7 isn't the most obvious move. Maybe we need to embrace some other idea. If we play king f1, that looks like just a straight up blunder, because he can still play takes with a check. We take, and then he takes our queen. We take his queen, and then he can take back the bishop, and then we take back the bishop, and the material is dead even. We're not winning in that position. So maybe it's not like the worst possible thing that could happen in the world, but it's pretty bad, right? We could definitely do better. We could also consider even like crazy moves like knight to e4, knight to e2, bishop to e2 to block the check. But then, well, maybe like knight to e4 or something like that. But then he can still take on g2 with his pawn and threaten our queen and the promotion to a new queen at the same time. And in that case, we would be faced with the same options, either play rook g1 or queen takes h5, and the same calculations would apply, except we haven't taken here with the bishop yet, so we haven't gotten that +9 on our side yet. So what does that really get us? I don't see what that gets us. That's better. So we are kind of stuck in this position. We have calculated all the moves, and we need to figure out if we need to look for like a different move, something that's totally out of the box, or if we need to go back and check one of our variations and maybe see if we can find something out of the box inside one of those variations, or potentially check for a miscalculation somewhere. So we have to stall for a little bit here and think. We could go into story mode. So today it was Christmas Eve, and I decided that I was going to get my parents a bottle of wine. So I went to a local liquor store that's close in the area. I am over the age of 21. So I was able to purchase a really nice bottle. It wasn't like the most expensive wine in the world, but also wasn't like a $15 bottle of wine. Now this store had pretty limited stock. Like 95% of their wines were all around the same price range, and they had a couple of wines that were outside of that price range. So I knew I wanted to get something a little bit more extravagant. Nothing crazy, of course, but I only really had one option to go with. But the guy who was running the store recommended it, so I decided that I was just going to buy it. I didn't spend more than like 5 minutes inside of the store. I didn't get to like taste the wine or anything. I don't know how normal that is. I don't typically buy liquor. So that was my experience at the store. And then I did something really boring. I went out and I got my car inspected because I'm moving states, and you have to get this like emissions test to see if your car is compliant with the environmental rules so that you can get your car registered in the new state. So a pretty eventful Christmas Eve. Not the most exciting day ever, but nevertheless, I did get a couple of errands done. And then I came back home and I hid the wine in my room inside one of my clothes bags. And then my mom was going to my room to like do something, and she found it, and she was like, "Did you like bring this wine here from Buffalo or something like that?" She was like asking me where it came from, and then I was like, "Oh my goodness, that was your Christmas gift. You opened it too early." And then we ended up breaking it open and drinking out of it tonight, which was pretty funny. Uh, I don't actually drink, so only my parents drank it. They had some sparkling grape juice that I had instead. Shout out to anyone who likes sparkling grape juice. That is, in fact, one of the best drinks. Okay, so back to this puzzle. Let's calculate the main line again, and then see if there's anything we can find. So bishop takes e7, pawn takes g2. This is, I think, the really key variation that we need to look at. Is, is there any move that we can make that like creates a threat against him that he needs to defend against? And we can play queen e2, but he can just play bishop takes e7. He gets rid of any discovered check threats. But actually, even better would be bishop takes e2. If we play queen e2 here, he could just take the queen, and he would have no problems. And he's still threatening to take the rook and also threatening to take back the bishop. So that wouldn't really work. We got to remember that the pawn is no longer on f3 when we're visualizing into the future. So this is a tough nut to crack. So after f takes g2, the craziest move is queen takes h5, because it's saying like, oh, okay, I don't care about that rook in the corner. Go ahead and take it and promote, and watch what happens. But we don't have enough material really pointing at the enemy king side to make a dent. One thing we could do is actually castle. That just occurred to me. We could castle here, and that wouldn't be against the rules of castling because we're not castling through a check. The pawn oh wait, would we be castling through a check? The pawn is attacking the f1 square. If something's attacking f1, then you are castling through a check, so we can't castle. Remember the rules of the game there. Yeah, the pawn is attacking f1. It's the destination square of the rook, but the king has to move through that square. In fact, and you can't castle into a check either. So you can't castle if there's something attacking f1 or g1, or if you're in check. So those are the three different scenarios there. So, well, that's a real bummer because that looked promising for a moment there. Yeah, queen takes h5 just looks too far out there. It doesn't quite look like it can cut it. Rook g1, bishop takes d1. We've already looked at with rook takes d1, and then bishop takes e7, just a straight up trade. I still think bishop takes e7. It has to be the first move though, so I'm very confident in starting with that move and then kind of seeing where to go from there. Okay, so yeah, it pans out like we had anticipated. He takes on g2, and now we're faced with this situation. So in order to get out of the promotion, we could play king d2. That's a kind of a crazy move, but then he could take on h1, and then we would take with the queen. Let's take a look at king d2. Okay, king d2 takes on h1. We take with the queen, and we've only lost a rook, and then he takes on e7. So we've lost a rook and a bishop for a queen. Pawns were traded, so that's even. And that would be good for us because we would have won a little bit of material in that exchange. But let's say he doesn't take on h1. Let's say he takes on d1 instead. Then we take with our rook here to get out of the attack. And then he also takes on e7. So again, we would have traded the bishop and a queen for rook and a king, for a rook and a queen. So, oh no, sorry, a bishop and a queen for a bishop and a queen. I don't know what happens there. It's like my mind is just overloaded with the puzzle and I can't talk. I don't know if that ever happens to you guys when you're really focused on something and you try to do something else. Obviously, I have to prioritize talking here because I'm making a video for you guys. So I mentally need to like kind of prioritize that a little bit, even at the cost of having a slower calculation. Hopefully, it can be just as accurate. Yeah, so crazy moves like bishop to f1 doesn't work because he can take on d1 and then still threaten to promote on us on h1. So I think I think I have it between rook g1 or queen takes h5. It doesn't look like it can be anything else. I guess we could even throw bishop takes f8 into the ring. But we would just be passing the tempo to him. That's not getting rid of the threat of queening. Like the queening or taking a queen is the main consideration here. Like either we have to stop him from taking our queen or stop him from queening. Any move that doesn't accomplish one of those two goals looks like it's too slow. If we take on h5, he queens with a check and by capturing the rook. So that move looks like it can't possibly be correct. Is there any move that allows us to block the attack on the queen and also resolve the threat on the rook somehow? We looked at king d2. I mean, what about bishop e4? Bishop e4, he can still just take on d1, and then we take on d1. He can even take our rook in that case. Is it some other move that's really outside of the box here? I'm not seeing it, which is why I'm still thinking that it's either queen takes h5 or rook g1. Rook g1, bishop takes d1. What about bishop takes f8? So rook g1 just very calm. He takes our queen. Bishop takes f8. And now we've taken a queen and a bishop. My alarm always goes off in these videos. It's crazy. We've taken a queen and a bishop. And let's say he captures our bishop. And now he's taken a queen and a bishop. And then we just take his bishop on d1. And now we've taken two bishops and a queen. How's that? So after bishop takes d1, we don't just automatically recapture on d1 with the rook. We take on f8 with our bishop to continue that capture momentum. So rook g1, let's just confirm this. Rook g1, we're getting out of the attack. So bishop takes d1 is forced. He has to take our queen because we took his queen, right? And instead of taking back here immediately, we take something of his with our piece that's being threatened and under attack. So it's giving us this extra initiative. And then after he recaptures, or he could run his bishop away, we can just run our bishop away in that case. And we still have taken a bishop and a queen, and he's only taken a queen of ours. So that looks pretty good to me. If you guys need it explained, just rewatch the video. So I'm going to go rook g1 now. That is a correct move. And here's the critical move. I'm going to take on f8 instead of taking here and just resolving this threat first. Take on f8, and that is the correct answer. Okay, awesome. So using the piece that's under attack to capture something else before it's then going to be recaptured gives us the last capture, right? Because if we took on D1, he gets the last capture. He captures last, so then it's a even exchange. But if we take on F8, then he takes, now we get the last capture. So we made the first capture taking on E7, and we made the last capture taking on D1. So we've made one more capture in total than his. You can check the math on that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Happy holidays for those of you who do celebrate Christmas. I have to say this because it is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas as well. My family is not religious except for me, but we still, celebrate the holiday just as a kind of a cultural thing. And if anybody does that, then I wish you guys a good celebration tomorrow. If you don't, that's also cool. So yeah, and special shout out to people who have liked my videos and commented on the videos recently. I really do appreciate your support. Go ahead and continue to do that if you would like. And I'll see you guys probably not tomorrow, but soon after that, maybe the day after tomorrow, a couple times before the new year. All right. So thank you guys for watching.